October. Well, let's give you a little history first. We are living in Charleston, South Carolina, and Bud is assigned to the Charleston Naval Base. And I didn't have my job yet, so I was still home. In fact, the only reason he was home was the fact that his ship sort of hobbled in. Thank goodness, because I had a baby due any minute. Doesn't seem like I was always pregnant. Yeah, I was. But anyway, this is the second baby. So we have a brand new baby. And there's about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, they might stretch it out to, where the ship is going to be in the yard. Now, everybody knows fiscal year ends at the end of September, so Bud already had his requests in for his department. He didn't have that much to do, so they set up an office, and every day he would go in there and put in his time, pretend he was working essentially, and work ahead on things. In fairness, Bud never wasted time. So he really didn't have much to do. And then he'd come home around noon. And then one day he came home a little bit early, and he was quite upset. He sat at the kitchen table looking all glum. I said, "What's wrong, Bud? What's wrong, sweetheart? Why are you looking so bad? Why are you so sad?" He says, "Well, you know what? When I was a single sailor, before I met you, doll, I never realized how important it was for the married guys to be home at Christmas with their family. If we were in port, I often took the time on the ship on Christmas Day so they could be home with their children. But it never hit me how important it was that they were with their kids for Christmas and their wives. It was really important. It was a family time. And now, doll," I said, "What, Bud? What's wrong?" He says, well, now, doll, I'm going to be gone for Christmas. This has been bothering me and bothering me. I don't want to miss 1 second of Christmas, 1 second of the kids being excited. I said, "Honey, the baby won't know anything." "That doesn't matter. The baby will see the lights. The baby will see the lights and be excited." "Oh, like Gregory," he says. Gregory's got a twinkle in his eye, and we have to do Christmas, and I won't be there. I won't be there to see him open his presents. I won't be there to see him light up with the tree. And doll, I won't be there to help you put the tree up. How will you manage a tree without me?" Well, I thought, well, we can't have this. But what would it hurt if we had Christmas early? I mean, we have time now. You're not busy. And, it's sort of a downtime for both of us. We could have Christmas in October. He thought about it for a while. I said, well, but if you go to the biblical scriptures, they describe the stars. And, if I take a look at that star formation and read the latest science information, I'm a science major, so it looks like Jesus could have really been born in the summertime. So maybe 25th of December isn't really even his birthday. I said, besides, we're going to be all together for Christmas. We'll have Christmas now, and then you can go to sea. Well, I would think that he had been given the biggest Christmas present in the world. His smile went from ear to ear. If he smiled anymore, his face was going to break. "Oh, doll, that's such a great idea. Such a great idea." Okay, so now it's around lunchtime, and Gregory, the baby is on my chest. At that time, we didn't have the fancy carriers that they had. I just wore a neck scarf with the baby inside and wrapped the baby around, sort of hippie style. And Gregory's sitting on the high chair, or sitting on the chair. He wasn't on the high chair anymore. And Bud announces to his son that we're going to have Christmas early. Oh, okay. Gregory looks at him sort of strange. So Gregory's thinking about this and thinking about it, but he doesn't say anything yet. We have our lunch. Everything's cleaned up. The dishes are in the dishwasher. And when Bud's home, he likes to put the kids to bed, or the Gregory to bed. I mean, the baby he couldn't do much about that. I was breastfeeding, so he took his little boy in for lunch, and after lunch, he took his little boy into bed, and he starts putting him into bed. And little Gregory had this thing about wanting to stretch out the time before his nap. He was really an expert at it. So pretty soon, I'm sitting in the kitchen, breastfeeding the baby, getting the baby ready for his nap, little Christopher. And Gregory says, "But Daddy, how will Santa know we're having Christmas now?" Well, my left-brain husband deals only in facts. He was at a loss. How could he explain that? He didn't know what to say. So I sort of stood up, went in the room and rescued my husband and said, "Santa is magical. He knows. But just in case, we'll write a letter to Santa." Next question out of Gregory's mouth, still stretching this out. Will he get it in time? Will the mailman get it to Santa in time? Oh, of course. There's still 12 days to our Christmas. Besides, Santa has special mail that goes to the North Pole on special delivery. I wouldn't be surprised if he got it the next day. But what about a tree, Gregory said. We'll have to help Santa with that this year. Maybe go out and pick one up at the tree farm, walk in the field and pick a perfect tree, then leave it ready for Santa on Christmas Eve. I could see my left-brain husband mentally adding that to a list in his head. Bud lived by lists, and I'm sure he was making this list up right then. So the little baby's down to bed. Bud gets his little boy settled, and he comes out, and he's out at the show. Okay, now we in South Carolina don't have basements, so your storage area is outside in an on-air-conditioned storage shed. And it was pretty good size, but it was hot. So he's sweating like mad. He's gone through pulling out all the Christmas stuff, one after the other. Now, Bud is very left-brained and very organized, so all the boxes are neatly labeled. So he knows exactly which the Christmas ones are, and those are stacked neatly up. And then he pulls out the piece of plywood that we use for the platform under our tree. So he looks at it, puts it down, looks at it again, looks at it again. This piece of plywood, from being in the dampness, is all warped. Well, who knew my husband had his favorite clipboard with him? Yep, and the list was started. Now, this list started with to buy list, and plywood was added to the to buy list. Okay, so all the stuff is taken in. Poor man's soaking wet, absolutely soaking wet from doing that, but he's in the bedroom stacking the stuff up. The spare bedroom had nothing in it. We had, the baby still slept with us in the cradle in the bedroom with us in our bedroom. And he's in there stacking all the stuff up so neatly. And now, second list is made. Now, first we had the to-buy list, now we have the second list. This was the inventory list. As things came out, they got marked on the inventory list. If something was missing, it went back to the to-buy list. Two lists we have so far, to-buy list and the inventory. Well, okay, so he's making this, and I'm looking over, I'm sitting on the floor. I had to do my Piggly Wiggly signs for the grocery store. That was my job. I had made the signs once a week, so I'm doing my Piggly Wiggly signs on the floor in the bedroom while he's unloading all this. And he looks down and he takes out his prized childhood train. Oh, his eyes lit up. Oh my goodness. This train was really cool. If you put oil in it, smoke actually came out of the chimney. And I think he was going to hug that train pretty soon, but that went over on the side along with all the tracks and everything. Now he pulls out the puts paper. Now I'm going to step out of the story here for a minute to explain to you what puts paper is. Okay, so puts paper is from a German word. And I was raised, and Bob was raised in Pennsylvania. It's a German word, putzen. Putzen means to put. So in Pennsylvania, we put a piece of plywood down on low Charlie horses and cover it with felt and then put chimney paper around the outside, corrugated chimney paper that covered the open space so you didn't see the Charlie horses underneath there. And it looked pretty cool. And then you put cotton on the top and you put the village. Well, Bud had the coolest village. He was always making original buildings for the Christmas puts. We called it the Christmas puts. Okay, the Christmas village in our house was called the puts. And then on that puts would go all the little houses and, of course, the train. He was all excited about this, but he was sort of discouraged because the puts paper, that's the chimney paper that goes around the bottom, was not sealed that well, probably because I put it away, and it was destroyed by the dampness. So on the to-buy list, that went on the to-buy list. The rest of everything went on the inventory list. Okay, over in the other corner were the outside decorations. Now, this was the first time we were in a full-size house. We lived in a 10 by 50 trailer in State College, so we didn't have much in the way of decoration. But this home, according to Bud, needed more. So on the to-buy list, was a whole list of stuff. I really knew I didn't know what it was. I mean, I couldn't really see, but everything Bud did was in neat block print, and he was adding to this list. The to-buy list actually needed a second page. Never turn a man loose at Christmas time. Not this man, because he loved Christmas. He smiled so much as he's doing it. And then he turned to me and said, "Doll, I think we need a second train. What do you think?" With that smile on his face, how could I say anything but absolutely, Bud? And I stood and cleaned up some of his wrapping paper off the floor. His smile got so big, even bigger, and I thought his face would break if he smiled even more. So he completed that. His inventory had everything laid out, and so we had a normal day. And the next morning, Bud goes for his 3-mile run. He went on that religiously every morning. If he was home, he ran 3 miles. So he comes in the kitchen. He says, "Doll, I'm going to call off work today. They don't need me anyway. We can get an early start on Christmas." Oh, okay. So I quickly fed the kids and Bud, and then Bud took the quickest shower. I don't know. He could be in that shower and out of that shower, shaved, showered, dressed, and ready to go in no time. I took a little bit longer. "Hurry, Doll," he said. "We'll be late." "But Bud, the stores aren't open for another hour." "I know," he said, "but it doesn't hurt to be early." Now, when you're married to Bud, after a while, you learn about the 20-minute rule. If you are not 20 minutes early for something, then you're late. If you get there 15 minutes before the time you're supposed to be, you're late. So I figured, okay, whatever. I got ready and hurried, and we hustled to get everything ready. I put the baby on my chest, and Gregory got in the back seat of the station wagon, and we backed out of the driveway. Miss Ethel, remember that lady? She's a grumpy one next door, was out to retrieve her newspaper in the morning, and I gave her a friendly hello. She kind of growled at me under face and gave me a weak wave. And we were on our way to downtown, to the Charleston, to the shopping area. The things we needed, we couldn't get at the exchange, so we were going downtown Charleston. Bud turns to me, he says, "Okay, dog, time is limited, so we will divide the shopping into two." Out comes two more lists. One labeled guys, and the other doll. Doll meaning me, and guys meaning Gregory and Bud. So that makes 5 lists. When did he do that, I wondered? Well, I don't know. My list, he knew better than to make it detailed. My list had 3 things on it: cotton balls, presents, and puts paper. That was it. The guy's list, well, that was completely 2 pages long, written out in his nice, neat block print. "I'll drop you off first and then head to the hardware store," he said. Okay, so he dropped me off. I looked at my watch. 25 minutes till the store opens, but there's a nice bench there, so I sit on the bench with the baby and wait. And Bud's off. He's gone to do the manly stuff at the hardware store with his son, Gregory. And so he did. He went, and I got things for the kids. It was easy then because they were little, and the baby didn't really know Christmas. It was little toys for Gregory. And so Bud comes back to pick me up. Well, he came back a little later than he promised. And I'm waiting on this bench. Where the heck is Bud? So finally the station wagon pulls up. The back seat is down. Gregory's sitting cross-legged in the back on top of the thing, barely wedged in between all the stuff that Bud bought. I mean, it was wall-to-wall bags. What did he buy? Oh, well, okay, he's happy. I said, "Bud, where am I going to put my stuff that I got today?" "Don't worry, there's plenty of room. Plenty of room in the car. Don't worry, doll, I'll get it in there." Well, okay, Bud, that's okay. We get home, lunch again, and back in the room, the spare room, doing the inventory. Now, when you do this inventory, as he took stuff out of the bag, it already had been checked off at the store, but you had to cross it out now. That made it official that it was in the house. So the inventory list had to be added to. The to-buy list had to be crossed out. I don't know what happened to the guy's list. I guess it went by the way, but anyway, he was checking off or crossing out the to-buy and adding it to the inventory. And he was in there for quite a while. But he's smiling. He's happy. He's got Christmas music on. I figured, okay, let him go. All right, so day 2. Day 2, Bud goes back to work. Goes back to the office, and he says, "I'll be home around noon, doll. I'll be home around noon." So I figured, okay, I had the morning, I get the house straightened up and whatever, get the stroller out, and put the baby on my chest and Gregory on the stroller. And I'm going to run over to the Piggly Wiggly quickly. And as I'm going by, Miss Ethel spies me out of her blinds. And she's out the door. She's out the door. And she says to me, "Are you going to the Piggly Wiggly, Linda?" I said, "Yes, I am." She said, "Would you pick me up some milk?" I said, "Sure, Miss Ethel." I said, "What size do you want?" She told me and everything. She says, "Well, make sure you get the receipt. Make sure you get the receipt so that I can check that I got the right change. And don't go to that blonde cashier. You know, blondes." Then she realized I was a blonde and she sort of backed off. "Well, that blonde in particular is pretty dumb. Go to the brunette. She's a lot smarter." Oh. I said, "Okay, Miss Cecil, I'll be glad to do that." She says, "Oh, that's so nice. You're much nicer than the last Navy family." I said, "Really?" He says, "Yeah, that landlord only rents to Navy people. And they sort of, well, it's okay if they fit in. They can live here if they fit in. But that last Navy family, they had this blinking party light. It kept my cat up all night. I couldn't stand it. I hate blinking lights. Absolutely hate blinking lights. And I told them about it. I said, well, were they having a loud party? Oh, no, they weren't loud. They were very quiet. But they had this blinking light, and it was so annoying. Well, why didn't you close your blinds, Miss Ethel? Why should I have to do that? They should learn how to respect the neighborhood and live here. I mean, they are living in my neighborhood. Okay, Miss Ethel. So I took her money, and I'm off to the Piggly Wiggly. I come back, and there's Miss Ethel sitting. Now, I lived on Old Town Road in Charleston, and God bless them, they put a bench right in front of our house so that Miss Ethel could sit there and watch her home. And there's Miss Ethel. She's sitting on the bench looking at my house. Well, I have to stop because I have to give her a milk. And she still looks at the house. I said, oh, I thought she'd say thank you, but she didn't. She counted her change and said, do you have my receipt? I said, yes. So she counted her change. She made a mistake. She counted it again. Okay, so I had exactly the right amount of change for her. She was happy. She looks at my husband and she says, what's your husband doing? I looked up and there's Bud. Oh, he looks so good. He didn't have a shirt on. He was in his navy running shorts, and he's up there with a staple gun. And I looked a little bit harder. He's stapling lights to the roof. Something out of the Christmas Vacation film. And I thought, oh no, Christmas Vacation? Bud doesn't do anything halfway. He's going to have that whole roof covered with lights. I know it. I know it. I said, well, Miss Ethel, I think he's putting up Christmas lights. You're having Christmas now? It's early. That's sacrilege. You can't have Christmas in October. Jesus was born on the evening of December 25th, and everybody knows that. Sacrilege. Sacrilege. You can't have Christmas in October. Not touching that. I said, well, Miss Ethel, maybe I'll just have to go to confession. You're not Catholic. No, Miss Ethel, I'm not, but my husband is. And I'll go to confession and confess to that. Appease this lady, make her happy. Well, you better not make those lights blink. Yes, Miss Ethel, I promise. The lights will not blink. Okay, so Bud is working and working. Hi, honey, how are you? Oh, I'm fine, he says. I'm just doing a little decorating on the top of the house. I said, well, be careful up there. It's awfully high. I'll call you for lunch in about 15 minutes. So I did. And he's sitting at the table, and he's antsy. He wants to get back out to his decorating. And so now, Gregory, again, needs to go for his nap, and the baby needs to go for his nap. And Bud's in there talking to his son, and I can hear them from the kitchen. And he says to his son, he says, Santa knows you're here. He knows, but we're going to do something extra special. We're going to put in a radar system. His son looks at him sort of oddly. A radar system, Dad? What's a radar system? Well, it's something special on the ship. It sort of blinks on and off, and it gives the location of other ships. That's how we know where other ships are at sea. So, Dad, you're going to put blinking lights on the house? Oh, yes, that would be way cool, he says. I can hear this, and I'm thinking, oh, Miss Ethel, she's going to have a canary. My husband is going to put the lights on and blink. Okay, so what can I say? So he tells his son about radar, and now my son has a new word in his vocabulary, radar. He is going to call it radar from here out. The blinking lights are radar. Santa will see the radar and know exactly where to find our house on our early October Christmas Eve. Gregory goes to bed. Bud's back in, doing some inventory and grabbing more lights. The whole time the kids are sleeping, I hear staple gun, staple gun, staple gun, staple gun, staple gun. So I figured, okay, I'm going to take him some iced tea. I go out there. I said, how you doing, bud? Oh, I'm good. I'm having a good time. I'm having a good time. You want some iced tea? Sure, doll. He says, I have to come down anyway. I have to add more staples for the staple gun. But, bud, you just bought a whole pack of them. I know, doll, but I need some more. I'm going to run out soon. More staples? How many are in a pack? Holy mackerel. So anyway, I didn't say anything, let it go. So this went on just about every day. We're getting ready for Christmas, getting ready. But now, another conversation with Gregory. He says, Dad, where are we going to get a tree? Well, we're in South Carolina. It's October. There aren't exactly tree lots around. And artificial trees weren't that prevalent then. So his dad thinks about it. We'll go to the tree farm. I hear him tell his son, and go out across the field and pick out and cut down our own tree. Gregory's eyes got really big. Really, Dad? We can go out and walk out in the field? Yes, and we'll pick out the best tree they have. I'm thinking, Bud, do you know the tree farms are not open now? Okay, well, he dug a hole. He has flashing lights, and he's going to a tree farm that's not open for Christmas. Comes out, added to that, he has now a schedule list. A schedule list. We are going to the tree farm last, because if we carefully water that tree, after he leaves, he's leaving 3 days after our Christmas. If I water that every day, that tree should be fine for me, and he'll be home shortly after Christmas, and he can take it down, because that was, it's heavy to do. So off we go in the station wagon again. Miss Ethel's looking out, grumbling and grumbling, and she's watching us all the time. Now we're off to buy a tree. So we get to the tree farm, and like I said, it's closed. Sign says closed for the season. So, okay. That doesn't stop my husband. Off he goes to ring the front doorbell. Then he stands there with me by his side with the 2 kids. Doesn't say anything. And this really sweet guy, sort of chunky, an old guy about my pop's age, comes to the door and he says, can I help you? And I said, not Bud. Bud doesn't do the talking. I did it here. He sticks it to me because this was his idea, but I have. Well, we need a Christmas tree. Guy looks at me like I have 2 heads. A Christmas tree? Yes, sir. We need a Christmas tree. My husband's not going to be home for Christmas, and we're having Christmas in October. He's going out to sea on the ship. And we decided to have family Christmas. Wait a minute, he says, I'll get my boots. So he gets his boots, slips on his jacket, and off we go. And we walk around, and it's magical. Pick out the tree we wanted, and Gregory's running from tree to tree, and my husband's right behind him, all excited. And there it was, the perfect tree. Guy from the tree farm cuts it down, and Bud, Greg, and the tree farm owner drags it to the station wagon. Man says, nope, this won't do. He says, by the time you get home, you put it on top of the station wagon, all the needles will be off it. Come on, we'll take it over to the barn. In the barn was this big machine that shrink-wrapped trees into plastic. It's all closed, sealed up for the season. The man goes over, takes all the coverings off. I said, well, you don't have to do that. I mean, you're not going to be open. No, you have to do it or you'll lose all the needles. So pretty soon we have a shrink-wrapped tree on top of the station wagon, and my husband says, what do I owe you? And the man's answer was, oorah, nothing. Oh, he was a retired sailor, the tree farm owner, and he was just thrilled that he could do this for us. Okay, so each day we're doing the same thing over and over. Each day, Bud's decorating, Bud's taking inventory, we're adding to the to-do list, we're adding to the to-buy list, and things are coming along. And now it's time for Christmas. Oh, it's so magical, Christmas Eve. And as promised, Bud didn't turn the twinkle lights on until Christmas Eve. Now they had to be on Christmas Eve for the radar to work. And so he turned them on. But he had this timer. It was a really cool timer. And he explained it to me. He says, Doll, this is off. This is 2 hours. This is light sensitive. When the sun goes down, that'll turn the lights on. Now over here are two controls. One is blinking, one's steady. Okay? It's really cool. So we won't have to go out every time. Okay, so Bud has it set that night. He switches over to blinking. Blink, 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 2 hours. Miss Ethel's going to have a fit, but too bad. We're already on going to hell because it's sacrilege to have Christmas in October. And so we have our Christmas. We set it up. It's very magical and it's wonderful. And who cared? The sun was shining. We're in South Carolina. There wasn't any snow, but our family was together. It was warm and beautiful. So we had a Christmas, but then the day after Christmas, I got a call. It says, Linda, your Grammy isn't doing so well. That's from my mom. She says, would you like to come up and see her? Well, I made a promise to my Grammy to always bring my babies home for her to hold. And I didn't want anything to happen to my Grammy without her holding the baby. So Bud's leaving for sea the next day. And I figured, okay, when he goes to sea, I'll go see my Grammy. Have everything ready. I'll take him to the ship, keep right on going. So I did. That morning, it was chaos. Chaos getting ready, because Bud has to, well, he's organized. Me, not so much. And I'm getting stuff. He's helping me get stuff in the car, and I'm getting stuff in the car. We're not paying attention to little Gregory. He's standing on the front porch where those lights are plugged in, and kind of diddling with something. And I'm thinking, oh, God. So, everything's checked. The locks are checked. Come on, hurry up, doll. I have to be early. Okay, I'm coming, Bud. So I really didn't get to check the lights completely. Dropped that off, and we head to my Grammys. 2 weeks later, and I'll tell you about my grandmother later. She was a doll, but that's such a beautiful story. She did hold my baby, and, well, anyway, that's a whole other story. But, so now we're heading home. We want to get a head start because there's a snowstorm, and we have to get down through Virginia. We're going from Pennsylvania back down to South Carolina, me with 2 little kids, and I want to get ahead of the storm. Well, I think the storm got ahead of me, and it was the one fluky time when it was snowing in South Carolina. Oh, these people didn't know how to drive. Did not know how to drive. So I pull in, finally, I'm exhausted, and it's nighttime, and I pull in, and there's Miss Ethel standing in my front yard. And in the front of my house is a police car. Now, he has his lights on, no siren, just the lights, warning things so nobody hits him. And he's kind of standing on our yard with Miss Ethel, and she's pointing to our lights and complaining. Oh, gosh, now what? Now what, Miss Ethel? So get the kids out of the car, get them into the warmth and settled, and I go out to see what's going on. Miss Ethel called the police on us because our son, our Gregory, when he was fiddling around on that front porch, had set the timer. Remember that fancy timer with all the switches? He had set the timer to light sensitive, so that these lights were going to go on as soon as it got dark and go off in the morning. He also switched over to blinking. So the 2 weeks we were gone, our lights were going boing, 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 blinking. And Miss Ethel was having a canary about it. She wanted us arrested. Whereas Bud, when I need him, he's out to sea. I have to handle Miss Ethel. So again, I lucked out. The policeman was a retired veteran, this time a Marine. And he just sort of calmed Miss Ethel down. And I went to the porch and turned the lights off. So that's the story of Christmas in October, and I hope that you enjoyed it.